On a cold evening, beneath the dim glow of a flickering streetlight, a young homeless girl dug through scraps behind a busy restaurant, hoping to find anything edible. Just as despair weighed on her shoulders, a sleek black car rolled to a stop. Out stepped a wealthy man in a tailored suit, his polished shoes glistening against the damp pavement. He looked at her not with pity, but with a strange curiosity, like someone had just stumbled upon an opportunity. With a faint smile, he extended his hand and said words that would forever alter her fate. "Come with me. Tonight, your life changes." Her name was Alina, a 17-year-old girl who had been wandering the city streets since her mother's passing 2 years earlier. She carried with her nothing but an old backpack with torn straps and the memory of better days when she once lived in a small apartment filled with laughter. The world had shown her cruelty, shelters too crowded to accept her, strangers who looked away as though she didn't exist, and nights spent under bridges where the cold gnawed at her bones. That evening, her stomach had ached so badly that she almost fainted while scavenging near the trash bins of a fine dining restaurant. The scent of discarded food filled her nose when she heard the sharp hum of a luxury engine pulling up behind her. The man who emerged was striking, mid-40s, tall with neatly combed dark hair and a wristwatch that could pay for years of shelter meals. He introduced himself only as Mr. Hale, his voice calm, persuasive, and unsettlingly confident. He didn't ask her questions. He simply told her that fortune had chosen her tonight. Confused but desperate, Alina hesitated. She'd been warned of strangers with hidden intentions, but the promise of warmth and food clouded her fears. The man gestured toward his car door, his gaze unwavering. For the first time in weeks, she saw someone acknowledge her existence, not as a nuisance, but as someone worth noticing. Heart pounding, she stepped into the plush leather interior, not knowing whether she had just accepted salvation or walked into a trap. The car ride was silent, except for the low hum of the engine. Alina pressed her hands against her empty stomach, trying not to seem overwhelmed by the luxury surrounding her. Glowing console screens, the faint scent of leather, the soft music playing in the background. Mr. Hale sat upright beside her, studying her like a collector who had just acquired a rare item. His silence was suffocating, broken only when he offered her a small box of food from the restaurant. The moment she took her first bite, tears welled in her eyes. It had been days since she tasted something fresh. But with every passing mile, unease replaced gratitude. She had no idea where they were going, only that the city lights faded into quieter streets. When the car finally pulled through tall gates into a sprawling estate, Alina's breath caught. The mansion loomed against the night sky, its windows glowing like watchful eyes. Inside, marble floors stretched endlessly, chandeliers sparkled above, and walls lined with art spoke of wealth beyond comprehension. A housekeeper silently handed her a warm towel, and Mr. Hale instructed her to wash up. Too exhausted to question, Alina obeyed, scrubbing away days of dirt until she almost didn't recognize her reflection. When she returned, a table had been set for her alone, plates filled with rich food she had only ever seen in magazines. Every bite felt like a dream, but beneath it lingered dread. Why was he doing this? What did he want in return? Later, Mr. Hale led her into a room lined with designer dresses. He told her to pick one. Confused, she hesitated, but finally chose a simple navy dress, modest compared to the glittering gowns. As she looked in the mirror, she almost saw the girl she used to be, someone who belonged in a classroom, not on the streets. But the illusion shattered when Mr. Hale's voice changed. Smooth, yet firm, he reminded her that nothing in life was free. Every gift has a price," he said quietly, stepping closer. Fear crawled up her spine. She stammered, explaining she wasn't that kind of person. For a moment, silence thickened the air, broken only by the distant ticking of a grand clock in the hall. She braced herself for the demand she dreaded. Instead, he told her something she couldn't have predicted. He wanted to buy her future. Alina froze. His words twisted in her mind. What did it mean to buy her future? Mr. Hale explained, his tone unsettlingly calm, that he intended to sponsor her life. Education, shelter, food, everything she had lost. But in return, she would belong to him. She would live in his house, follow his rules, and shape herself into whatever image he decided. To him, it wasn't an act of kindness, it was a transaction. Her heart raced. Part of her wanted to scream and run, but another part, a quieter, tired part, wondered what choice she had. She was alone in the world. Every door had been slammed shut on her, and here was a man offering security. Yet the way he looked at her, not as a human, but as something he could mold and own, chilled her to the bone. When she whispered that freedom meant more to her than survival, he smiled, not with anger, but with challenge. He called her naive, claiming freedom was meaningless without power, and power could only be bought. His words echoed through the vast halls like a cruel philosophy he had lived by all his life. Tears filled her eyes as she stood trembling in that room. Her mind battled between fear, desperation, and the instinct to protect her dignity. In that moment, Alina realized something profound. He didn't truly want her compliance. He wanted her spirit broken. That was the real purchase, and that was the one thing she refused to sell. With sudden clarity, she set down the untouched jewelry box he had placed in her hands. "I said, Jen, no amount of comfort is worth chains," she said softly, her voice steadier than she expected. For the first time, the wealthy man's composure faltered. He wasn't used to rejection, not from someone society had discarded. The silence between them stretched, heavy and dangerous. But instead of rage, Mr. Hale gave a cold, hollow laugh. He dismissed her with a wave, as though she were a failed investment. The chauffeur was summoned, and within minutes she was escorted out of the mansion's gates and left on the quiet roadside with nothing but the clothes on her back. The car sped away, its taillights vanishing into the darkness. Alina stood trembling in the night air, but something within her had shifted. She had faced the abyss of temptation, the easy path of survival in exchange for her freedom, and she had chosen dignity instead. She had nothing, yet she still had herself, and in a strange way, that felt like more wealth than the man who lived behind those golden gates would ever know. The following days were no easier. Hunger and cold remained, but now she carried a fire inside her. She began seeking out shelters, not only for herself, but to help others she met along the way. She realized that wealth without humanity is emptiness, and survival without dignity is another kind of death. Alina's story is not about rescue by a rich man. It is about rejecting ownership and reclaiming power. And that is what makes her stronger than the world expected. Because sometimes the most dangerous offer isn't the one that takes your life, it's the one that tries to own your soul. So ask yourself, what would you choose? Comfort with chains or freedom with struggle?